Guys, I was so shocked by what I learned recently about the debt snowball method that I cleared my calendar to get this information to you as quickly as possible. Before I share, I wanted to get Dave Ramsey's blessing because what I'm about to share with you may change everything.
You doofuses.
Whoa, Dave, I agree with a lot that you say, but those are harsh words for people who don't always agree with the debt snowball method. Now, are there any problems that you see with the method?
The only problem with the debt snowball is it works.
Dave, let me ask you, are you at all biased towards the debt snowball method? I know the answer to this question, but who actually coined the term debt snowball method?
And that's when we came up with and started using the debt snowball.
Okay, so you were the one that termed the debt snowball method, and you also created it 30 plus years ago. It's now 2025, so would you actually be okay if I showed some of the problems with the debt snowball method today?
You can write a blog about Dave Ramsey and all the things that are wrong with him and post it as clickbait from your mother's basement if you want. But at the end of the day, I've gotten more people out of debt than anybody else on this planet.
I'm not in my mother's basement, but I want to share 4 things with you that are crucial to understand. First, we're going to talk about the fatal flaw of Dave's snowball stance. Second, we're going to cover a 21st century alternative that you may want to use instead. Third, I'm going to tell you how much money you could actually lose in the debt snowball method and how you can estimate that for yourself. Fourth and finally, we're going to cover which method is actually the best method for you. Let's get started. Dave Ramsey coined the word snowball method, so I'd imagine he loves it. But what if the very research Dave Ramsey uses to prove his snowball method works the best is based on something he calls a complete scam? First, Dave Ramsey's backbone in support of the snowball method is a 2012 Northwestern study and a Time article that says Ramsey is right. People who pay off the smallest debt first are more likely to successfully eliminate all of their outstanding balances. I'll source the links to the studies in the description so you can check it out for yourself, but here's what he says in a video.
Northwestern University did a study of the debt snowball versus the avalanche, and they concluded, because of probability of completion, that the snowball was far superior. Because if you quit and you don't get out of debt using the mathematically superior, which is not really mathematically superior, it doesn't work.
That's right.
So you don't get completion, you don't get to the goal. And then Time magazine comes out and does a story on the Northwestern study, and they go, turns out Dave Ramsey was right. well, like we didn't already know that. We've got like millions of proof text here. We've got so much social proof on this that's unbelievable. We beat your research project into submission.
But I'm a bit of a skeptic, so I studied the research report and oh baby, we got a problem. The Kellogg researchers share how they got to the heart of the question by obtaining access to a unique data set provided by a leading debt settlement company. It gave precise information as to how 60,000 people finally eliminated their credit card debt. Did you catch that? Let me reread it. They got to the heart of the question by obtaining access to a unique data set provided by a leading debt settlement company. It gave precise information as to how 6,000 people finally eliminated their credit card debt. Okay, let me tell you what. You will see that the data they provided for that study was from a leading debt settlement company. People enrolled in a debt settlement program do not properly represent those who are using the debt snowball method, and let me show you why. Let's say person A has $10,000 of credit card debt amongst 3 cards of $1,000, $4,000, and $5,000. And let's say that person fell behind on their payments, so collection agencies are chasing them, and they decide to enroll in a debt settlement program. The debt settlement program then negotiates for a lesser balance to $5,000, starting by negotiating the smallest balance to the largest balance. Let's take person B, who has the same $10,000 of the credit card debt amongst 3 cards of $1,000, $4,000, and $5,000, but they are all current on their payments, and they decide to use the snowball method to eliminate their debt by paying those balances in full plus some interest by starting with the smallest balance and moving to the largest balance. Do you see the difference? In a debt settlement program, a company is doing the debt payoff strategy, not you. In addition, you are behind on your debt when you're in a debt settlement program, not current like you are in the debt snowball method. And finally, you are settling balances and not paying the debt in full with interest. Even worse, Dave Ramsey himself calls these debt settlement companies scam artists, and that's where the data comes from. Just watch.
These people suck. They're complete scam artists. And then worse than that, that's the theory of how it's supposed to work. But worse than that, they haven't actually followed through and gotten the settlements done.
So the same audience he calls scam artists is providing data that does not represent someone using the debt snowball method. By the way, if you like unlearning potentially destructive financial tips that keep you in debt longer, click subscribe. My goal is to do the exact opposite and provide content to help you get out of debt faster. Plus, I create videos every week. Let's talk about the 21st century alternative method, and then I'll share a surprising way that you may be able to make $4,000 easily. When Dave Ramsey introduced the snowball method, computers were almost the size of a car, and I was playing the Oregon Trail on a compact Presario in my mother's basement. Just kidding. It would be nearly 10 years until I could even play Snake on my first cell phone. We've come a long way since the 1990s, so why are we stuck using the debt snowball method from that era? Sure, you may say that the snowball has social proof of millions of people getting out of debt, but just because they use that method to get out of debt doesn't mean they wouldn't have gotten out of debt using a better method. Let's talk briefly about the avalanche and savvy method. The avalanche method involves saving the most in interest by aligning your debts from highest interest rates to lowest interest rates and then paying extra towards the highest interest rates. You will save the most money in interest payments, but you may not get that psychological benefit of snowball method. The savvy method is a 21st century method that uses a little technology to combine the best of both avalanche and snowball method. The method is savvy because it may start with prioritizing smaller balances to give you a psychological benefit if you need that, but then you'll be able to get that money back in your pocket by the avalanche method. The savvy method is also unique to your personal situation. So your savvy method may actually be different than another person's savvy method, and it's all in a free debt payoff planner that you can get online. But how bad is the snowball method? Let's cover that next. Now let me ask you a question. What would you do with an extra $4,000 in your pocket? Because that's how much money the snowball method may be silently stealing from your future. Why? Because when you use the snowball method, you ignore interest rates. The problem with this method is that sometimes your larger debts are more risky to the lender, which means that the interest rates on those debts may be significantly higher. Let me show you two scenarios that'll illustrate what I'm talking about. If you'd like to check out your own scenario and see how much you may be losing for snowball, you can check the link in the description to a free estimator. It takes 1 to 2 minutes and does not require any personal information. First, we're going to add a debt of $1,000 with a 2% interest rate, $10,000 with a 10% interest rate, and $30,000 with a 29% interest rate, and a monthly payment of $1,325. Now, when you click calculate my savings, you'll see that you can save an estimated $4,000 with the savvy method over the snowball method. Let's look at a more extreme example with 0% APRs. Let's say you have two debts of $24,000 and $25,000 at a 0% interest rate, and then two debts of $26,000 and $27,000 at a 29% interest rate, and a monthly payment of $2,850. In this scenario, Savvy would actually save you an estimated $9,000 over the snowball method. Now, my co-founder and I created the Savvy method. So you may be like Dave Ramsey created the snowball method and you created the Savvy method. So you both are biased. However, which method is actually the best to help you get out of debt? And the answer is, I could not find a long-term study showing real user data. So we decided to do the study ourselves and use real data instead of old debt settlement data from 2012. The Savvy Debt Payoff Planner allows users to choose which method they want to eliminate debt: Snowball, Avalanche, and Savvy. This will enable us to track who starts the program, who drops out, who gets out of debt, how fast they get out of debt. And by tracking these variables, we will be able to determine which method actually works best. And it may not be the Savvy method. And I'll plan to share all of those unique details with you. So I know I harped on the Snowball method today, but it can be the best debt payoff method if you need that psychological benefit. However, I would argue that it's always crucial to enter your debt payoff journey with eyes wide open, weighing the interest that you may have to pay extra just for using that snowball method. Alternatively, consider the debt savvy method if you'd like a combination of the two methods, or the debt avalanche method if you would like to get out of the debt no matter what and want to save as much interest as possible. Thanks so much for watching. Comment below if you have any questions whatsoever.